for the big showdown. This is it. Our Series 3 Newblood Grand Finals. Our 6 machines have readied themselves for the final fights that are about to ensue. So let's quit wasting time and let the carnage begin. This is it. The Newblood Championship's final showdown. Which of these 6 machines will be taking home the trophy? X marks the spot with their CO2 launcher against Iron Ore with their CO2 flipper and spiked axe. Mutant Flair, the cylindrical design with their vertical flywheel against Mechavolt with their own horizontal flywheel, and Direwolf with the controlling jaws and flamethrower against the flipper of Wambulance. Let the finals begin! X marks the spot. Flipper. Had to drive carefully to get Wheel of Misfortune down the pit of oblivion, which eventually paid off. They then had a bit of trouble against Anesthesia before finally getting underneath them and throwing them out of the arena, and then flipped themselves out of the pit in the heat final to send Fulcrum on a one-way trip back home out of the arena. I knew there was potential in the machine, just had to get it out. The weapon though is very interesting, and it does cause slight problems which could be taken advantage of going forward. Iron Ore Flipper Axe Spot. Nightlight gave them major worry at the start by inflicting some damage before eventually falling down the pit. They then had a good fight with the Junkyard Boss where they struggled doing anything really meaningful to them before finally flipping them out of the arena. And then Hedgehog tried giving them a challenge, but to no avail as they ended up down the pit as well, and then Iron Ore joined them. They may not have gone far in the main competition, but they have done very well reaching the Grand Finals of the Newblood, and I'm left wondering if they'll actually go and take home the trophy, something they were robbed of by Peach in the Battle of the YouTubers Grand Finals.
Robot ears, stand by.
X marks the spot with their wedge and their CO2-powered launcher, and Iron Ore with their CO2-powered flipper and their spiked axe, which I don't really think's been all that effective, honestly, going into this competition. I don't think it's been effective ever, really. All their damage really has come from their flipper. And Iron Ore flung away by X marks the spot and missing that flip, but Iron Ore takes advantage of, throws them over, and are now pinning them against the wall, and X marks the spot are in trouble because Iron Ore has thrown many machines out the arena, and they may be next, they are! And their own weapon pushes them away! Well, X marks the spot, I think that was inevitable with where X marks the spot was pinned by Iron Ore, and Iron Ore get what seems like a rather easy victory as they throw themselves up and over. Why exactly did you do that? Was it in a celebratory fashion? I honestly have no idea. Anyway, Iron Ore threw X marks the spot into the loser's melee. Next up, Mutant Flair and Mechavolt. Mutant Flair. Spinner. Had a good tussle with the judge before they ended up in the pit, though they tried very hard to get themselves out with not much luck. They then took on Cat 3, who suffered drive problems as they drove straight into an arena wall and died, and that didn't exactly help. And then a fantastic battle against Megalodon, who started very aggressively, but the moment they lost a tire on their wheel was when everything ended, and Megalodon were torn apart. We saw them do extremely well in the Silver Rumble against Storm 2 and Thermidor, and I am glad to see the machine do very well, which I thought it could do. The flywheel is very lethal, and I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of it. But we've seen the size of their machine get exploited before, and that could very well happen again. Mechavolt Spinner. Didn't give Glass Eye a chance, really. Tore apart their wheels so they only had one left, and that then led them driving down the pit. They then had a major scare against Peace and Right before they threw themselves down the pit. And then the surprise of the heat, Bucky the Rebooted, who stood up well before they eventually lost their wheel, and then lost everything else. The flywheel has shown us just how ferocious and destructive it can truly be, and it's no real wonder that the team's now here in the Grand Finals. But are they Newblood Champion material? Only time will tell.
Roboteers, stand by.
Mutant Flayer, the cylindrical machine with its vertical flywheel, and a Mechavore with their own horizontal flywheel, and bags of experience from BattleBots. A good spinner frenzy this ought to be. Here's a point, why didn't we have a spinner frenzy competition? Like, we had the flipper frenzy, why didn't we have a spinner frenzy? Well, I guess I wasn't really thinking that far ahead. Oh well. Maybe next time, if I remember. And Mechavore already losing a tire thanks to Mutant Flayer, and Mechavore trying to retaliate against their wheel, but to no real success. But Mechavore can throw Mutant Flayer down the pit, and that's the end of them. They're gone into the losers melee. And now into the pit goes Mechavore as well, just after Cease. But Mutant Flayer fell first, and it's Mutant Flayer into the losers melee, and Mechavore goes through. And the only real repair they've got to make is, well, their tire, which shouldn't really take them that long, should it? They're through. Mutant Flayer into the losers melee along with X marks the spot. Next up, Direwolf and Wambulance. Direwolf, control bot. Had no challenge at all, grabbing Hammerhead 2 in their jaws and chucking them down the pit. Had a tougher time against Stroller though. Gave a few good flips and lifts before getting them on their side and making it far more easy to push them down the pit. And then an impressive victory against Manhole Maurice, who got lifted onto their back against the arena wall and then got lifted up and over it. The design and technical skills that have gone into this machine have definitely paid off. The control is brilliant, the lifting power is strong enough to hoist the machine out of the arena, and it's a fire-breathing wolf which just makes it automatically badass. In with a good chance for the grand finals, provided they don't lose their wheels or get overturned. Wambulance! Flipper! Had a slight struggle against St. Agar before luring them over and watching them spin themselves into the pit. Then had a comedic time with Harvester, who tried driving on the side of the wheels before eventually being sent to the scrapyard. And another struggling fight against Skua, although more one-sided than the other one. It was a great fight despite them really struggling, but a poor driving error saw Skua drive themselves down the pit, and Wambulance going through. Out of all of the machines in the Newblood Championships, they've definitely had the more work to do, and I've had a major struggle in each of their fights, and I'm wondering if that's going to be a telling tale going through.
Roboteers, stand by.
Direwolf, the flipping, clamping jaws and the flamethrower, and Wambulance with their very steep CO2 flipper, and right now probably one of the only few machines that could really give Direwolf a very good scare.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
As I said earlier, if Direwolf is overturned, that's it. Direwolf will be immobilized, but right now Direwolf clamping down on Wambulance and trying to give Wambulance a real problem and trying to overturn them as well. And if Wambulance does get overturned, then Direwolf will have major advantages here because Wambulance also doesn't have much of a self-righting mechanism, and they're trying, and up and over! And now, Wambulance, they can fire their flipper as much as they want, but they cannot right themselves. That's just mean. They couldn't right themselves before. Now they definitely can't. They can't now. Ah! From that angle they can, however, because now they're on their flipper, and right themselves they do. But Direwolf once again grabs a hold. Not the clamp though. I don't really think they're clamping. I think they're more interested in just toppling them over. Which is interesting. Trying again. And underneath and flipping them over. Onto their weapon again. And doing a bit of leapfrog here. Look at this. Direwolf lifts Wambulance up and over. They fall onto their flipper. Direwolf comes in just as Wambulance fires their flipper and they fly over them. That is just brilliant, but this will be the end for Wambulance in this battle into the losers melee. Wambulance down the pit and out. And Direwolf breezes on through to the second round of the Newblood Championship Grand Finals. And can Wambulance recover from this defeat, I wonder? Well, let's wait and see. Direwolf will be heading through to the Newblood Grand Finals second round to join Ironor and Mechavore. Meanwhile, it's Wambulance stretching out into our losers melee, where they will be joining with X Marks the Spot and Mutant Flare. And we've seen how spinners work on Wambulance, which isn't that effective. Could that give Wambulance the advantage?
Roboteers, stand by.
The Newblood Championship Grand Finals with X Marks the Spot, the Wedge, and the CO2-powered launcher, Mutant Flare with their cylindrical body and their vertical flywheel, and Wambulance with their very steep CO2 flipper, and the least worse off of the three, and probably the only one that can really stand a good chance against Mutant Flare, honestly.
3, 2, 1, activate.
We saw they took full-body spinner attacks, and they did very well. And now Mutant Flare getting flung by X Marks the Spot, who then flips over Wambulance. And, well, X Marks the Spot's their entire wheels on the floor. And that's immediately going to affect their drive. They can just about drive outside their circumference, but the control is very limited. And Wambulance flipping away Mutant Flare, and that's probably what's going to happen. It's probably going to end up being a fight between Mutant Flare and Wambulance. But off comes the other tire. Yo, the other wheel's gone, and now there's nothing left for X Marks the Spot. They can't drive, or maybe they can somehow. You have no wheels. How are you driving? We'll come to that later. Anyway, Wambulance flipping over Mutant Flare as X Marks the Spot flips themselves over, rights themselves, and takes major damage from the flywheel of Mutant Flare. And is that going to be serious damage? Has that completely immobilized X Marks the Spot, I wonder? As Mutant Flare and Wambulance push them away, who fires the weapon to get away and end them up and over. Can X Marks the Spot right themselves? They're trying, but I'm wondering if X Marks the Spot run out of CO2 because their weapon is no longer helping them. Mutant Flare flung away, rolled back, and now to come in on the attack on Wambulance's rear. And I mentioned earlier how Wambulance would be the better chance of dealing with Mutant Flare, and that's because they've dealt with two full-body spinners in the main competition, and Wambulance very close to ending up down that pit. Can Mutant Flare capitalize? Can they? No! Oh, Mutant Flare almost had that victory, and Wambulance nearly ended up in the pit. As I was saying, Wambulance took on two full-body spinners with a couple damage to the armor, but they were still fully trucking, especially in a full 5-minute fight. Wambulance can easily take those attacks from Mutant Flare, who right now seems stuck between the arena wall and X Marks the Spot. Here comes Wambulance again to flip them over. Not much luck. Now they get the flip over on them. And can they flip Mutant Flare out the arena? I am not entirely convinced because of the shape of Mutant Flare. They can flip them away, no problem. But flipping them up and out the arena is going to be a different case entirely because it's a strange design and it's a little bit awkward. Flipping them away is no problem, same as Stinger and Wheelie Wacko in the past two wars. But flipping out... Oh, Wheelie Wacko, who remembers that machine? But flipping out the arena, Mutant Flare, not an easy feat. But Wambulance very much on top right now, being more aggressive. They're charging away Mutant Flare. Weapon seems to be stuck in the flipper of Wambulance. A very good fight this is brewing out to be between Wambulance and Mutant Flare as he's driving around one of X Marks the Spot's wheels, who have long since been forgotten, captain out and immobilized, and Mutant Flare now stuck against the corner. And can Wambulance flip them out the arena? No. They probably could have tried, but they didn't have that power. And now flipping them again. And I'm wondering Because don't forget, Wambulance's flipper runs off CO2 and there is a limited supply of that. So maybe their flipper is losing power. What's that on the floor? Is that a part of Wambulance or is that a part of... it's a part of Wambulance, I think! I think that's one of Wambulance's wheels! I am not too sure... Wait, Wambulance's wheels are inside the machine. Only X marks the spots were out. So, it's probably one of X marks the spots wheels, come to think of it. Not Wambulance, who is still pressurizing Muted Flare. And honestly, that's a surprise! Now, despite the damage, and oh, what are you doing, Wambulance? You're this close to falling down the pit! Can they get X marks the spot in there? No! Getting away! Oh! Well, that's such a shame. Muted Flare could have won this. They flung themselves down into the pit. Oh dear. Poor Muted Flare. I think they could have won this on damage, but they threw it away at the very last second. Wambulance gets a second bite of the cherry, and they go through. Talk about snatching the victory from the jaws of defeat, and this was victory that was practically just handed to them because someone decided to be a moron. Muted Flare down the pit, X marks the spot, immobilized, Wambulance back in the fight. Oh great, they're taking on Direwolf again, that's brilliant. Well, can they make a recovery, I wonder. Here's the first fight though, Iron Ore and Mechavore.
Robot ears, stand by.
Iron Ore with their CO2 powered flipper and their spiked axe. And Mechavore with their 2 flywheel discs.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Just on the off chance you forgot that their blades are 2 separate discs and they were nearly close to going down the pit there. On the opening seconds, that first collision. Woohoo! Good thing they hit the brakes when they did. Otherwise, they would be toast. And Iron Ore in trouble. And we've mentioned before, they don't do good against spinners. And I think they've lost both their tires. They've lost their drive. And all they've got is the flipper and the axe. But it's not enough. They've got no drive. I believe it's over for Iron Ore. They can't move. They're immobilized, and it's Mechavore's fight. Iron Ore will be going home, and unfortunately, at the same problem they did in Battle of the YouTubers, they're on fire now, and and Mechavore's in the pit. Lovely. So, Mechavore's in the pit. Iron Ore's on fire and driveless. Immobilized as well before Mechavore went into the pit. And you know what that means. It's Mechavore going through. And there you have it. The confirmation. Iron Ore 2 are out. Mechavore going through to the grand finals. Next up, it's Direwolf and Wambulance again.
Robot ears, stand by.
What a rematch this is going to be. Can Direwolf pull off the same victory they did against Wambulance before? Or has Wambulance learnt? And can they get their revenge?
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Well, let's wait and see. But from the looks of things, I am not convinced it's going to go. Oh, hang on. Wait, no. It's Wambulance who's in trouble. They're flipped over by Direwolf. I feared that would happen. The fight before, Direwolf already learning Wambulance's weaknesses and are now pushing them towards the pit. And Wambulance, there's no way of getting out of that. They're down the pit. They are gone. That's the end of Wambulance for good in this championships. It's Direwolf going to the grand finals to face off against Mechavore. And this time, Direwolf really didn't need to try hard. And that's a celebration, if ever I've seen one, raising up and breathing fire in celebratory fashion. And celebrate, you should, my friend. Oh, Wambulance, I guess they didn't learn much from their previous altercation with Direwolf. Direwolf once again dominates and throws him down the pit. And it's Direwolf heading through to the grand final showdown of the Newblood Championships against Mechalvor. And this could very much test Direwolf against a lethal flywheel. Let the finals begin.
Roboteers, stand by.
This is it. The final showdown for the Newblood Championships. Mechalvor with the horizontal flywheel made of 2 discs, and Direwolf with the lifting, clamping jaws, and the flamethrower.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Both of these machines have done brilliantly to get to this stage, and Direwolf already clamping down on the flywheel of Mechalvor, trying to make sure it can't do any real damage. That's a good attempt there. Is that a piece? I think that's a part of the small front wheel on the floor, that little bit of green. That's a piece of armor. So right now, Mechalvor trying to do damage and has ripped off one of the paws of Direwolf. You can see there on the floor, one of the paws of Direwolf is completely gone. And Direwolf is having a bit of trouble with the jaw that's closing too early. Are they trying to not use the jaw? Maybe because they know that if they try and flip them, they'll still somewhat be able to work up and over for some reason. I don't know how they can, but somehow they can. So maybe Direwolf's trying to rely on their pure power as they're pinning them against the wall. But the more they do that against the flywheel, all that's doing is giving Mechalvor more points as Direwolf pushes away and ripping into them again. But I don't think they're doing a whole lot of damage. Something else has come up on the floor. Surprisingly though, Direwolf hasn't lost any of their wheels. They still have every single one of their wheels intact. And Direwolf have not given up yet. There's an attack on the wheel, but it didn't do anything. It just kind of, well, did nothing really. And they're playing very dangerously close to the pit. And I think Mechalvor has realized that if they can get their wheel over the pit, and it'll be the end of Direwolf. Into the pit they go. They've slid in and they can't come out. They're gonna try. I'd like to see them try, but I don't think it's gonna work. No. And they've rolled over as well. Up and over for a tummy tickle in the pit, and it's not gonna happen. Poor Direwolf, they've done fantastic reaching this stage, but it's Mechalvor crowned our Newblood reigning champions. Well done to Mechalvor as they take home the trophy, and Direwolf takes 2nd place. A great final, but its victor is Mechalvor. A destructive chase comes to an end as Direwolf crashes down the pit and out. Well done to Mechalvor as they make it to the top as our Newblood champions, and after a great fight too. I look forward to seeing them back in the new series. But until that time comes, take care, and I'll see you next time. Farewell.